Hello everyone, I am Anand Prasad. Today I'll give a short presentation on securing the next generation. This presentation is for roughly 10 minutes, so I will give a very high level view. And in this presentation I'll give my thoughts. Thus I have to put a disclaimer that it's not the presentation not necessarily gives a view of NEC or 3GPP. So I am chairman of 3GPP SA3 and I'm working for NEC Corporation Japan. Now, to start the presentation, let me give a brief overview about 3GPP, followed by different releases, and then I will go over to timeline, and then about what different phases in 3GPP means, a high-level view of 5G architecture, my view on 5G security and architecture, and 3GPP security work on 5G, and finally conclude. All this in 10 minutes. Now, in 3GPP, as you know, 3GPP is a mobile communication specification group. Around the globe, if you are seeing anyone using mobile phone, you know that it is based on 3GPP specification. Now, with that, you also understand there are billions of subscriptions or subscribers of 3GPP solutions, and by subscriptions, I mean that they're human being and there are also devices as well. There are 3GPP machine-to-machine, IoT-based specifications as well. Now, for all these work, there is a group called SA Working Group 3 that falls under the TSG SA Group Service and Systems Aspects Group. Now, that's the one grayed out here. And this group provides security for everything in 3GPP. Not only this SA part, but also the RAN part and the CT part shown here. Yeah, the 3GPP SA3 or SA3 develops security specifications for all of mobile communication systems that you see. Now, let me give something about the releases that, as I discussed earlier. So in 3GPP, we have different releases. We have 2G, 2.5G, then we came to 3G. We started with release 3, and then now we are actually in release 15, going towards release 16. Yeah. One thing I want to point out, with every release, we saw a data rate increase, but when we came to 4G, we also saw necessity of new applications, and thus going to lower data rates as well. And that is where 5G picks up. Yeah. And here in release 15, we have a non-standalone solution. I'll come to that later a bit more. That basically means that a 5G radio can connect to the 4G core network and provide 5G services at locations that the operator wants. Together with that, in release 15, we have a 5G phase 1, which also covers the core network in that case. And then in release 16, the 5G phase 2 will come. All right, from my perspective, when we go to 5G era, then there are many changes happening in all different parts of the business there. When you look at security, you have the system, you have the architecture, you have the business, and you have to consider security for the whole thing. Yeah, it's not just security for the sake of it. Yeah. So if you look at this picture, let me just pull up a few more things. What I wanted to show is that high-level changes and then more detailed, deeper changes actually. This slide actually comes with one more layer above, which shows the market changes and its implication going down to technology and stuff like that. But let's start from here for the sake of time. If we look at the business part, we are seeing that in business side, there is more and more partnership coming and more and partners coming in play, which is important for the future business as we talk about IoT, as we talk about different kind of services that will come come to play in mobile networks. We have to talk about different partners. We have to talk about flexibility in that case in the network side, be the radio or the core network side. And for that reason, we get into different kind of solutions which are virtualized, which are cloud-based, and then we have to provide different kind of data rates. We have to have cognitive radio aggregation and use of unlicensed bands, and different kind of devices as well, which also means that we could have different kind of security credentials, and we have to think about different kind of storage of these security credentials. Yeah. And as we go into 5G, we talk about millennials who understand about security, and we go about ICT first-timers who don't understand about security and privacy at all. All these things have security issues. Yeah. If you think of something going at high data rate, giving high data rate, you have impacts on resources for that, the CPU, the memory, and things like that. You have to decrease the number of cycles of in which you send the data. You might have to think about how much data for security you utilize on the wireless interface as well. Now you see, think about optimization there. If you think about very low data rate services, IoT services, you have similar kind of thing, yeah? You have very few bits it's being sent per day. How do you secure it? Yeah. You cannot use multiple round trips just for authentication purposes. You cannot use the whole bit for integrity purposes and things like that. There are a lot of things in play over there. How do you provide security for different partners? How do you provide the authentication for different partners and the kind of confidentiality, integrity they require? Yeah. And then what is the level of authorization over there? Who has access control? When you talk about virtualization, how the virtualization security provided? How does it happen in cloud? How do you slice the whole thing and separate the different slices completely? How they bring up the different slices, bring them down? Yeah, it all goes with virtualization, but then there are different security requirements for all these different things. Yeah. I'll leave this slide at this point since we don't have much time, and go on to the next. No, that's a high-level view of 5G and security. And now let's look at how we have in 3GPP defined different phases. This is the well-known ITU triangle in which we have the mobile broadband side, we have the ultra reliable and low latency communication side, we have massive machine type communication side. These are the three triangles. What we have done in 3GPP in the first phase, which we have just completed actually, and going to finalize all the details by June or maybe a bit later this year. We have the mobile broadband side, and then in the latter phase, in phase 2, you will see the MMTC and URLLC coming in. All right. So I move forward in terms of timeline from security perspective. We started a study in release 14. We did a dual connectivity solution in our non-standalone solution, where we used a 4G core network for 5G in December. We finished security for that in December, and now recently in March, now we have finished security for phase 1, moving towards phase 2. Now this is the overall 5G architecture from 3GPP perspective. A very quick look, because I do not want to spend time on this. I want to spend time more on security part. What you can see compared to 4G is that the mobility management entity is split a bit. From my perspective, the authentication part is separated as AUSF, and you have a bit of part, I think, also gone to session side on SMF, but others might have different view about that. Now you have a network slice selection part, and you have network exposure function to expose the API to external world, which was there in the form of SCEF later on in 4G, but in 5G it comes from the very beginning. Yeah. Then you have a user plane function, which is completely separated actually from the control plane part over here. The radio part is divided in two parts, the DU and the CU, the centralized unit and distributed unit. And then you have a new interface there called F1. Inside CU, you can have further distribution in the user plane part or control plane part, and then you can have a new interface called E1. Not everything is shown in this figure for simplicity. And then you can have different slices, network slices. The data network connects to the user plane, and then it connects here with its application function, which can do some setting on the policy part over here in the mobile network. That's a big change though, yeah? You can change the policy depending on the data network needs. All right, let's look at it from differently. The core network part in the control plane is called service-based architecture, and all those interfaces that was shown earlier is actually converged into what's called a service-based interface. Yeah. And now let's move on to the next slide. Here we get into security. That's a high level about